Next item up is a public hearing. This is a zone change request for planned unit development on a property of approximately 1.42 acres located at the northwest corner of the intersection of First Street and Kelton Drive for the development of a one-story retail, commercial, and restaurant building totaling 12,100 square feet with 2 drive-through restaurant uses and approval of the associated Arc Site Review Request Z1805 AS 1725.
Mayor, before we begin the presentation, I'm going to recuse myself. I live just slightly over 500 feet from where this project development is, and so in an abundance of caution, I'm just going to recuse myself, and I'll sit in the audience and watch publicly.
Okay, thank you. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Mayor, Council members. Craig Tamernini, Senior Planner with Community Development Planning. I'll be presenting this item to you tonight. This project is a vacant site on First Street, Highway 152, just east of the intersection with Santa Teresa. It's one of the few vacant parcels available for redevelopment along that major corridor. This application was submitted last November, and staff's been working with the applicant to conduct environmental review and do a substantial amount of analyses on the site to make sure we had a project that could achieve compliance with city goals and policies, and we feel very comfortable and confident that we've achieved that. The site plan that you see above is reflects essentially 3 buildings or 4 tenant spaces that would occupy the site with on-site parking. There are 2 drive-through restaurants with this, as well as retail and a sit-down restaurant planned to complete the development of this site. It's at the corner of First and Kelton. To the north, there's a church use. To the west, there's an existing office and retail development, including Union Bank. And then across Kelton Drive, there's commercial. And then across First Street, we have the proposed 220-unit Eagle Garden Apartments, or 202-unit Eagle Garden Apartments that will be coming into development in the near future. So there's quite a bit happening at this intersection, and this development will serve those potential future uses as well as existing users and commuters through the community. The project does include a request for a parking agreement for shared parking with the adjacent Piazza office development site. They would provide 69 spaces on site and then have shared parking with the Piazza with an additional 39 to 43 spaces. There'd be parking here in this area and in this area. The city executed a parking study through our traffic firm, Hexagon, and that evaluated the entirety of the project and concluded that there would be sufficient excess parking. In fact, there's more excess parking than is being requested to be utilized. So the city code allows for that to be requested, and that's been thoroughly studied and looked at as well as by the Planning Commission and recommended to the council tonight. Getting into the details of the elevations, we feel it's a very finely designed project as required by the First Street policies and by the planned unit development overlay required for this site. It has a variety of materials and forms, including articulation within the facades that will make an attractive, inviting center. And one of the things of particular note is that the buildings are pulled closer to First Street and then on Kelton to provide more of a pedestrian-friendly experience. So it's moving in a direction that we feel is more desirable versus buildings to the further east where the buildings are quite set back from First Street and don't provide that same inviting appearance. So we feel this is moving in a positive direction, and the commission has agreed as well on that point. Looking internally on the site, this is what you'd see from the parking lots. The top building is looking west back towards, or east back towards Kelton, and then to the south, the building backing up to Union Bank. You can see there's quite a bit of playfulness with the design. It's a modern, contemporary design, but it has lots of good materials, long-lasting, durable materials, overhangs over entries and along the building to provide shade and cover. And it's also a space that can be activated for outdoor dining and use and enjoyment by visitors and patrons. Those are all aspects that we highly encourage and would advocate for. And then this is just another view looking back towards the buildings where the drive-through would come through, and you can see that it's been designed to try to conceal those drive-through areas so that they're integrated in the site and not just they don't detract from the site, but they're integrated and planned thoughtfully to accommodate those features.
Craig, I'm sorry to interrupt. Before you go on, if you could just speak a little bit more to the drive-through. So the restaurants that we're contemplating here, the contemplated use here, they would have drive-throughs. Now, just so we're all clear, the drive-throughs, how would they be arranged on this map relative to First Street? Because I know that people might have some thoughts about that and say, how is that going to impact traffic? So if you could just walk us through that.
Well, I'll do my best to do that on this exhibit. I might end up having the applicant speak to that and our traffic engineer as well. But the access to the site, I'm going to step back to this exhibit. Access to the site is via shared driveways that exist currently. So there's no new access points off of First Street. You come down Kelton Drive and would enter in the north side of the site to get into the site primarily, and then you can come in off Santa Teresa. So that will control, there will be no new access points, so people will be funneled in using existing drive entries into the site. When you get into the site, you come in and you can enter the drive-through on this side for this drive-through restaurant, and then through this direction for the restaurant drive-through conceived on this side. So the circulation breaks the traffic around this way, brings them back to the center of the site, and then they can go on and exit through the existing driveway. So Union Bank has this right in, right out exit just at this end of the site, and then back out to Kelton here, or back through this Piazza site.
Okay, so there won't be any additional exit points for those drive-throughs onto First Street?
Correct. All the queuing, all the traffic management would occur here, and they've provided for that on site.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Actually, I have a follow-up question, Mayor.
Yes.
Sort of staying in line with what the council member just asked, it's my understanding there's a proposed street or stoplight to be on First and Kelton, correct?
Correct.
What would be the impact of that stoplight, given that that First Street is quite busy throughout the day? So I'm just wondering what the impact would be, Santa Teresa and First Street, or First Street going towards Santa Teresa.
At Santa Teresa on First Street?
Well, I mean, it would be Kelton and First Street.
Kelton and First, correct. Right, so there would be a four-way signal here with the driveway aligned with the new development at Eagle Gardens.
Right.
So that will be a full stop control in order to keep the turn movements and the queuing and the capacity at that intersection operating an acceptable level of service C. So the impact would be to ensure that people have sufficient time to exit Kelton. It's primarily for Kelton Drive for people to make a left turn onto First Street. That's what the signal will provide, is that capacity to do that without a long delay.
Okay.
So it's been studied in conjunction with the improvements going on by Caltrans, with the signalization improvements that are contemplated in Santa Teresa to make sure that these are timed right so that traffic will come, stop, have time to clear, and then move forward to the next intersection. So it is something that was looked at, and I believe that the Public Works traffic engineer can speak further, but there are several stops in that corridor, and that has all been analyzed in the traffic report to make sure that flow will be efficient.
Because then you compare that to sort of what has been done is sort of the roundabouts, the difference between the stoplight and the roundabout. I'm just concerned or worried about sort of the traffic impact that stoplight may bring along with that project.
Understood, and I think I'd defer, rather than speak out of school. I could bring up the traffic expert either now or after I finish my presentation.
No problem.
That's all right. So let me just step through just with the design aspects, which are in the planning world, which we like. So we support the materials. Again, the district and the area, the planned unit district overlay and First Street call for a high quality design, and this project has not just done it with the building details, but with the pavement details, the walkway details, and amenities that they're proposing in terms of landscaping, as well as bicycle amenities, which I'll get into a bit later. So in terms of the analysis, staff had recommended, and the Planning Commission also supports and recommends, that the project is in compliant with our general plan and our zoning designations for the property. It's zoned for general land use, general commercial services, and that's what's being proposed. With the parking agreement, it complies with all of our parking standards. In fact, it assures that the area is not overparked, and we secure that through an agreement that's long-lasting and long-term that makes sure that that's in perpetuity maintained. And finally, but last but not least, it satisfies very critical planned unit development overlay district requirements. This site was pre-zoned PUD back in the early 1980s. It did not have a development plan. The applicant's bringing forward the development plan, which is the purpose for the ordinance that's before you tonight. It requires a high-quality design details that's presented in the packet, in the materials, and in the tenant design criteria that he included with his application that's before you as well. And in addition, they've offered public amenities as required by the PUD. That will involve some enhanced bicycle storage areas and a bicycle fix-it station on this property. And that marries up very nicely with some amenities down the road. We're planning some improvements to the bike path along the Hecker Pass frontage. So we think that there's synchronicity there that works well. They've also offered to fund the gateway signage that's planned for the Santa Teresa and First Street corridor as well. So they're providing a $10,000 contribution towards that. So that satisfies that aspect of the approval requirements. In terms of the environmental review, we had prepared a mitigated negative declaration. The main things we looked at were the parking impacts and the traffic circulation. The parking study showed that, again, we could accommodate the parking needs. They're paying their fair share of traffic impacts per our traffic impact program. And they're going to install the signal at First and Kelton and record the parking agreement. So all of the environmental issues that were identified have been addressed through those mechanisms. And our environmental consultant and traffic consultant are here as well, just in the event you would like to hear further on those topics from them. As I stated, the Planning Commission supported the project. They voted unanimously to move the project forward. We did have public testimony, 3 speakers. They essentially, there was a lot of support for the project, the movement towards a more pedestrian-friendly design. There was desire to see more, but everyone agreed that this is moving in the right direction and in a good approach. And then there was a desire to encourage traffic enforcement. There's a problem at the Union drive-throughs with people making illegal turns, and we think the signal and traffic enforcement will be sure to improve that situation. So staff's recommendation, again, is that you adopt the mitigated negative declaration and environmental reporting program that goes along with that. Make a motion to introduce the ordinance by title only, introduce the ordinance for the PUD amendment, and adopt the resolution approving the architectural and site plan. And that concludes my presentation. Again, the applicant's here as well, Chris Bonney, who is available to make a presentation to you, and staff's consultants as well. Thank you.
Okay, so there was at least one question regarding traffic or vehicle flow. Do we have our traffic engineer here? Yeah, there he is. Councilmember Tovar, I think it was you that had asked the question?
Yes. So again, I don't know if you got my question, so just sort of, okay, perfect.
I did understand. Thank you very much. I'm Gary Heap, City Engineer, Transportation Engineer. The need for the signal at the intersection is actually twofold. It's both for this project and for the Eagle Garden project across the street. And it's really to provide egress from both of those and access to both of those through the signalized intersection there at that location.
Okay, thank you.
And then the last comment was in more traffic enforcement concerns about the illegal left-hand turns coming out of the bank.
Right.
It seems to me, I'm trying to visualize that area with a traffic light there. With a pause in traffic, wouldn't that potentially encourage more people to make that illegal left turn? Because right now it's just, you know, cars are kind of flying by and you look for a break and...
Yeah, certainly. If you, with the signal there, you'll have the east-west stopped.
Right.
And so that'll provide additional gaps for that. But we can let our police department know and they can look to provide some additional enforcement.
Okay. Is there anything that could be done other than striping or anything
Look
like
for some striping and signage
ballards
improvements.
or something like that that might physically discourage that kind of stuff?
There are bollards. We could put bollards in the middle of the roadway. Sometimes those are a little unsightly.
Yeah.
But that is certainly an option we can look
Okay.
into.
All right. I just, right now I'm more interested in less is more. And so if we could just get, the police department to do more enforcement, or at least look at that area critically.
And we'll work with them and see if there's some engineering solutions we can assist with.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, so council, any other questions for staff?
Mayor, I have one more question.
Yes,
Sorry.
sir.
I don't know, this might be directed to the developer, or whoever can answer. Hey, good to see you. Seen you at the gym lately. Question, and
Working on this project,
right?
sorry.
I promised some of my constituents that I would ask this question. One of the concerns that they had, and maybe you can help, is in regards to the two drive-throughs, where there was concerns that it was going to be another, say, fast food drive-through or something that was unhealthy type, on the
Right,
drive-through.
right,
So
okay.
I don't know if we're at that stage yet to be able to say we've identified who might be interested if this does move forward.
Right. I can speak to one of the drive-throughs. And I'll go back. We really haven't we have not pushed the marketing at this point because, number one, it's hard to market a project where you don't have approvals. However, there have been several interested parties, and I can tell you that there have been some of the fast food guys, and we've said no. I think one of them is now looking over on 10th Street. We do have a letter of intent with a group that does what they call a better burger concept, grass-fed, organic style burgers, real milkshakes with a tap room. So it's a higher end type deal. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for synergy within the project. We don't want to have something that's just another, there's plenty of that up and down First Street. So we're looking for some synergy. And to play off the piazza, we've got the office complex and the townhomes across the street. As to your question on left-hand turn movement, there are currently bollards out there on First Street that were actually put in as part of the original development of Union Bank and the piazza to not allow the left-hand turns. Doesn't mean that folks won't drive over it and rattle their teeth loose, but they do actually, they do exist.
No, thank you. I think that's what I was hoping to hear, so I appreciate that. And I know that Councilmember Laurel Munoz is one of those that goes over those sort of ballers, so we'll keep an eye on him. But no, but again, I think it's important that we do look for occupants who are going to sort of take that location to the next level. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Tucker, questions?
I do. I have a question for staff. I'm just curious as to how you calculate the drive-through traffic counts. I'm one person that goes to that plaza a lot. In fact, I was just there this morning to see my chiropractor, and sometimes just backing out right now, there are a lot of cars that utilize the bank and various, areas in that shared parking area. So I can't imagine the count, and how do you calculate that per drive-through? Or I'm not sure. Do you is there like an industry standard, or how do you do that?
First, I'll answer what our code has as a standard, and then I'm going to defer to Gary and Hexagon to answer the industry standard, because there is one, but I don't know what it is off the top of my head. We require a queuing of at least 8 vehicle spaces, and then we have had, I'm going to have Gisela speak to the industry methodologies that are used.
Okay.
Good evening, City Council members, Mr. Mayor. My name is Gisela Del Rio, and I'm with Hexagon Transportation Consultants. We're the traffic engineering firm that prepare the traffic study. And as it was mentioned before, there are standard rates to calculate or to estimate traffic that's going to be generated by any specific type of use. So they're published in the Institute of Transportation Engineers manual, and that's what we typically use for most, uses. There's different types of uses, different types of restaurants. In this case, we use the rate for the fast food restaurant with drive-through window, and that is the standard. It's a nationwide document that is used to estimate traffic, and it's based on various surveys conducted throughout the country to come up with an average that can be used, for, like I said, for a very specific type of use.
That's exactly what I wanted to know, because I was wondering if you were using like Santa Clara County or California, or how you were doing it. So you're saying nationwide.
Right. The city of Gilroy uses, the city of Gilroy and most jurisdictions in Santa Clara County use the IT, Institute of Transportation Engineers, trip generation rates. That's what we're using.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, council member. Okay, so council members, you'll notice on the agenda ex parte communication. I'm going to go ahead and start off with that before we go to the public hearing. This is my effort to try to improve transparency here in the city. Ex parte communication is when a council member has received information outside of a public meeting that he or she believes has a bearing on the decision before them, and that is not reflected in the staff report presented to the council and the public. The decision maker should provide that information to the rest of their colleagues and to the public following the This will allow the participants, the public, and other council members to consider the information and forming their views on the decision at hand. Andy, is there anything else you want to add regarding ex parte communication?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, the city has an ex parte communication policy that was adopted in 2006. And that policy says that on matters subject to public hearings, council members and board and commission members should disclose prior to the public testimony if they have had discussions with persons outside the public testimony on a project. Typically, this could be the applicant's representative, could be neighbors, could be other people, could be project opponents even, and whether there is any information received from such discussions that are not part of the public record. That's the purpose of ex parte disclosures. And as I said, the city does have a policy that was formally adopted on August 7, 2006.
So, council, this ex parte communication hasn't been on the agenda, and when I found out about it, and then to make matters worse, I guess, the Planning Commission actually has it listed on their agendas. So I think it's important that we set the standard and have it on ours as well. So let me start off to my right, Councilmember Bracco.
I did not meet with anyone.
Councilmember Tucker.
No, I didn't either.
Councilmember Blankley.
Yes, I spoke with Chris Vani about the project, but there was no information that I got that was not discussed tonight and not in our report.
Perfect, thank you. Councilmember Tovar.
No, I did not meet with anyone.
Councilmember Leroy Munoz.
Yes, I met with the applicant at the potential site last Friday morning, but all of the information that was shared was captured in the materials that have been made public here.
Perfect, thank you. I tried to meet with the applicant a couple hours ago, but he was hungry and stood me up. So I did not meet with him. Okay, good. So let us now go to the open up the public hearing. Is there anybody from the public that wants to speak on this item?
First person is Chris Vani, followed by Zachary Hilton.
Chris.
Good evening, Mayor, and thank you for throwing me under the bus with my appetite, and council members. I think Craig and staff have done a great job in presenting the project, and really I'm here to answer any questions that you might have with regard to the project. I know one of the questions that Kat brought up is the circulation in going and seeing Brad, and thank you for going to the chiropractor there and keeps him paying his rent, and we enjoy that. One of the things that we did when we put this project, we put pencil to paper on this project, is to try to figure out how to make it work and how to create synergy between what our vision was, what's going on across the street, and what we already have. What we already have is an office complex. And so we know that primarily it's busy Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. What we're proposing is a retail project with, other than some overlap hours during lunchtime hour, midday, Monday through Friday, its peak time is generally different than the peak time of the Piazza. So it's going to peak at 5, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the evening, as opposed to the Piazza, who's pretty well starting to empty out at about 4:30, 5 o'clock. And then on the weekend, when the retail centers are typically busy, the Piazza, other than Westside Grill and the folks that go to Snap Fitness, it's primarily empty. So we created something where we could play off of parking that was available based upon the use times that were already out there. And so that was a big factor.
Anything else?
Any questions? No, I'm just,
No.
if you guys have any questions, here to answer, otherwise.
All right.
Okay.
Chris, thank you so much for being here.
Zachary Hilton?
Good evening, Mayor, Council, staff, and the public. This project will have a direct impact in the city of Gilroy by achieving our goal to reduce air emissions from on-road vehicles, improve air quality by encouraging residents and commuters to mode shift from vehicles to cycling, and increase walking as alternatives to driving for short, first, and last trip miles. By providing an openness of the walkways, visible bicycle parking into the project, and outdoor patio dining, you're encouraging vehicle passerbys to consider walking and biking to this project. This enhances the security of bicycle parking at the project as well. This project demonstrates how we can reduce the amount of parking for vehicles while providing the necessary bicycle parking to make the site functional for all users, and this creates equity among all modes of transportation. We are actively embracing and advancing ideas and projects that promote the concept of free-range people here in the city of Gilroy. We advocate for building planning and for the future generations as well as current residents and employees who don't own cars. This reflects what we are teaching the youth in our community through Safe Routes to School and Safe Routes for All. Providing an incentive that rewards the effort of biking is important. Free secured front row parking accomplishes this along with the bicycle fix-it station for public use. For the employees, I'm a big fan of bicycle lockers. Inside these lockers are hooks to hang helmets and coats. Some lockers can even fit 2 bikes usually on both sides. Many service workers do not own cars. Providing incentives such as secured bicycle lockers to their employees would keep unwanted cars out of the parking spaces, especially when they work double shifts. This will also free up current bicycle parking for customers. Modernized bike ped infrastructure will be coming to Highway 152 and 1st Street. The roadway will not look the same, and a complete transformation will occur. The Patio Project will be a model for future developments in our city and how we can make a project appealing to all modes of transportation. Thank you.
Thank you, Zach. Anybody else? Okay. Back to the council. Any discussion? Seeing none, can let me go ahead and close the public hearing. We've already done ex parte communication. Now we have possible action. We have a motion by Councilmember Peter Leroy Munoz, seconded by Councilmember Tovar, to move the adopted mitigated negative declaration and mitigation monitoring and reporting program for the 1st Street and Kelton Drive commercial development project. Andy, would you like the motions for A and B together, or should we separate out?
I think, unfortunately, they should be separate motions.
That's what I thought, yeah. So this is for item A only. Is there any question on item A from the council? Seeing none, please vote. Okay, and that passes on a 6-0 to 1 vote with Councilmember Harney abstaining. The next item is a motion to read the ordinance by title only and waive further reading. Is there a motion for that? We have a motion by Councilmember Tovar to read the ordinance by title only, seconded by Councilmember Peter Leroy Munoz. Is there any questions on that motion? Seeing none, please vote. And that passes on a 6-0-1 with Councilmember Harney recused.
Yeah, can I just for the record, on the first motion, Councilmember Harney also is recused, not I think you said he abstained, but there's,
did I say abstained? Recused.
It's not even clear if there's a difference, but there might be, so let's say he's recused.
Recused. Okay, so Shauna, will you please read the ordinance by title only?
This is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Gilroy approving zone change application Z1805, a plan unit development zoning amendment to approve the plan unit development permit for construction of the First Street and Kelton Drive commercial project filed by Donald Vanny Land Company.
Roll call vote, please.
You need a
No, you
Oh,
Make-
I'm sorry, I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
And that's a motion to introduce the ordinance, right?
We have a motion by Councilmember Tovar, seconded by Councilmember Blankley to introduce the ordinance. Please vote.
This is a roll call vote.
Right.
Marie Blankley.
Yes.
Dion Bracco. Yes. Peter LaRomagnos.
Yes.
Fred Tovar.
Yes.
Kat Tucker.
Yes.
Roland Velasco.
Yes, and that motion passes on a 6-0 to 1 with Councilmember Harney recused. Next item is D. Can I get a motion for that, please? We have a motion by Councilmember LaRomagnos, seconded by Councilmember Tucker, to adopt a resolution of the City Council of the City of Gilroy approving Arc and Site Review AS 1725 Planned Unit Development, Architectural and Site Review to approve construction of 12,000 square foot First Street and Kelton Drive Commercial Development Project. Roll call vote, please.
This is Resolution 2018-46. Marie Blankley.
Yes.
Dion Bracco. Peter LaRomagnos.
Yes.
Fred Tovar.
Yes.
Kat Tucker.
Yes.
Roland Velasco.
Yes, and that passes on a 6-0-1 with Councilmember Harney recused as well. Thank you. Chris, thank you. Next item up is unfinished business. This is a local agency formation, LAFCO policy review and assessment of urban service area and annexation requests. Gabe, did you want to tee this item up?